Hello, friend, and welcome to Inside the Dark. Thank you for joining me. Kansas City firefighter and paramedic named Graham Hoffman, just 29 years old, whose life was violently taken from him by a patient he tried to help while in his ambulance on the way to the hospital. Graham was unalived in the line of duty on April 27th of 2025. Shanetta Basel had just been released from jail days before she took Graham Hoffman's life. She was arrested on April 23rd for biting a police officer. She bit a police officer and resisted arrest, but was given a $10,000 bond for that case and bonded out of jail. Firefighter Hoffman would still be alive today, except for the fact that police and paramedics both tried to help Basel because they were concerned for her safety, not knowing they were helping a snake who was going to bite them too. According to court documents, police responded to a call for a welfare check on a person in the area of the Missouri 152 Highway and North Oak Trafficway. When they arrived on scene, they said they found Basel walking on the shoulder of the road. And when they stopped her to check on her, they saw that her finger was badly cut and she was bleeding. So police called for an ambulance to check it out. They offered to transport her to the hospital for care because they wanted to help her. But she refused to go. Then she changed her mind and decided to accept that ride to the hospital after all, in the ambulance. She was loaded into the ambulance with firefighter Hoffman tending to her in the back and his partner driving up front, with the police following in their car closely behind. Then all hell broke loose, and Basel pulled her knife and drove it into Graham Hoffman's chest. Graham's partner said he heard him yelling for help, and he could hear a loud disturbance from the back of the ambulance, so he threw the outside lights on and pulled over. He said when he ran to the back and opened the door, he saw that Basel had a knife, and Graham was trying to fight her off. So he yelled to the officers in the car behind them that she had the knife, but Basel was already jumping in the driver's seat to steal the ambulance, with firefighter Hoffman bleeding out in the back. One of the officers said he tried to pull Basel from the driver's seat, but she bit down on his arm and wouldn't let go, until he began hitting her with his weapon to break her hold. More officers were called to the scene to help restrain Basel, along with another ambulance, all while Graham's partner desperately tried to save his life. He was rushed to the hospital in a second ambulance, where he lost his life in the ICU hours later.
First here at 10, the Kansas City Fire Department is mourning the loss of a paramedic firefighter who died in the line of duty today. 29-year-old Graham Hoffman was stabbed by a patient while working a routine call early this morning. Thank you for joining us here on Fox 4 News at 10. I'm Shannon Brousseau. Hoffman died from his injuries this afternoon. Fox 4's Lexi French joins us live now at North Kansas City Hospital. Lexi, charges have been filed against the patient accused of stabbing him. Is that right?
Yeah, Shannon, that's right. And KCFD officials describe Graham Hoffman as somebody who loved life and serving his community. He served with KCFD for 3 years. Now, Shanetta Basel faces multiple charges, including first-degree murder, armed criminal action, assault, and resisting arrest in connection with the killing of 29-year-old Graham Hoffman.
This is a senseless act that has taken a young man from his family, friends, and co-workers and deprived our city of a dedicated firefighter who only wanted to serve and protect those in this community.
Hoffman was responding to a routine call around 1 a.m. on Sunday. He was stabbed by a patient while transporting her to a local hospital. Hoffman's partner immediately initiated a crew emergency.
An additional KCFD and KCPD personnel were dispatched to the scene. KCFD crews worked to save firefighter Hoffman's life while en route to North Kansas City Hospital. Life-saving efforts were performed in the emergency room, and he was placed in the ICU, where he later succumbed to his injuries.
KCFD held a procession for firefighter Hoffman Sunday afternoon at North Kansas City Hospital. Hoffman usually worked out of KCFD station number 42, but was working overtime Sunday morning when he was fatally stabbed.
This should not have happened.
During a news conference Sunday afternoon, city leaders promised to support Hoffman's family as they navigate this unimaginable loss.
There will be many steps ahead as we evaluate what happened, as we review what occurred, as we address whatever needs to happen in the future. But today, I'm focused on grieving for his mother, his father, his sibling, his family, and everyone in the KCFD family. We know that we will stand with them not just today, but well into the future.
A criminal history check of Shanita Basel shows that she was arrested and charged with assault in the second degree and resisting arrest. Last week, she's accused of biting a police officer on April 23rd. She posted bond on April 25th. Tonight, though, she is in law enforcement custody, and Shannon, she's being held on $1 million bond.
The community now left trying to make sense of this tragedy and honor Graham Hoffman. Fox 4's Kelly Peltier is at Fire Station 42, where Hoffman had served with that part of our team coverage.
Fire officials tell me Hoffman was committed to his job and serving the community, and that's exactly what he was doing Sunday morning when he was attacked.
You just don't come to work thinking you're going to get stabbed or shot as a firefighter, paramedic, firefighter, EMT.
According to KCFD Battalion Chief Michael Hopkins, there was no indication that Basel would be a threat when officers released her. But when Hoffman was offering routine medical care, his partner, who was driving, suddenly heard a struggle in the back and cries for help.
It's devastating for our department. We don't want to lose anybody, particularly in a manner like this. As firefighters, we understand the risks of burning buildings and car wrecks and things like that. We don't expect to lose our members to an act of violence, not something like this.
A responding KCPD officer was injured with non-life-threatening injuries while trying to take Basel into custody. Hoffman was taken to North Kansas City Hospital, where he later died in the ICU.
We just kept hearing over and over, how compassionate he was, how much he loved the fire service and doing the job that he was doing. He was a very vibrant person by all accounts, loved to travel, loved outdoor stuff. Was a big Chiefs fan, just a typical person who wanted to serve his community.
The fire department says they're working with Hoffman's family on funeral arrangements and providing resources for Hoffman's partner during this time.
It is with heavy heart and great sorrow that I announce the death of firefighter paramedic Graham Hoffman. Firefighter Hoffman was stabbed in the chest, piercing his heart while transporting a patient to a local hospital on what started out as a routine call. Firefighter Hoffman's partner immediately initiated a crew emergency, and additional KCFD and KCPD personnel were dispatched to the scene. KCFD crews worked to save firefighter Hoffman's life while en route to North Kansas City Hospital. Life-saving efforts were performed in the emergency room, and he was placed in the ICU, where he later succumbed to his injuries. Firefighter Graham Hoffman was 29 years old and was a member of the department for 3 years. Graham was a vibrant individual who loved life and loved serving his community. He was an excellent paramedic who treated his patients with the highest level of skill and compassion. The Kansas City Fire Department grieves with Graham's family, friends, and loved ones. This is a senseless act that has taken a young man from his family, friends, and co-workers and deprived our city of a dedicated firefighter who only wanted to serve and protect those in this community. The coming days, months, and years will be difficult ones as we prepare to say goodbye to firefighter Hoffman and process this devastating loss. I'd like to thank our KCFD members and the staff of North Kansas City Hospital for their tremendous efforts. Thank you to the Kansas City Police Department for your quick response and apprehension of the suspect. To the Hoffman family, my sincerest condolences for your loss. Know that during these difficult times, KCFD is here for you, and we will grieve with you. Today, KCFD and our community lost one of the best. Details for firefighters Hoffman's funeral services will be provided in the upcoming days. We ask that you give the Hoffman family privacy during this time and direct any questions to the Kansas City Fire Department's PIO. Thank you.
Tributes pouring in across the metro tonight in honor of fallen Kansas City firefighter paramedic Graham Hoffman. Police say the 29-year-old died after being stabbed by a patient during what would have seemed like a routine call.
That patient identified as Shanetta Bazel, and she's charged with first-degree murder, armed criminal action, assault, also resisting arrest. We do have full team coverage tonight, starting with our Lexi French. So Lexi, you were in the Clay County courtroom today when Bazel appeared before a judge.
Yeah, Bria, Shanetta Bazel appeared virtually before the judge this afternoon. She's accused of stabbing Graham Hoffman in the chest while riding in the back of an ambulance early Sunday around 1:25. Now, while today's court appearance provided little new information about that investigation, court documents we're learning more from about other recent charges against Bazel. A spokesperson for the Clay County Prosecutor's Office told Fox 4 on Monday that they're focused on achieving justice inside the courtroom and supporting those affected by this crime. On Sunday, Clay County Prosecutor Zachary Thompson announced charges against 38-year-old Shanetta Bazel in connection with the killing of paramedic and firefighter Graham Hoffman.
Our community grieves his loss at such a young age with his entire life ahead of him. No words or actions can undo the tragic events that led us here tonight. That will not stop us from remaining steadfast in our pursuit of justice.
Bazel was arrested and charged with assault on a law enforcement officer just days before the killing of 29-year-old Graham Hoffman. Court records say Bazel bit a Platte City police officer on April 23rd. She was charged in Clay County and posted bond on April 25th.
So when we filed the initial charge and requested a warrant, and it was granted, the judge in that case, as in all criminal cases, reviewed the circumstances, determined the appropriate bond. In that case, bond was set at $10,000 and the defendant posted that bond.
The 38-year-old doesn't appear to have a criminal history in Missouri prior to the incident on April 23rd. She's being held on a $1 million bond for the charges connected to the killing of firefighter Hoffman.
The work to uncover more information about the facts and circumstances of this horrific crime continues. Let me be perfectly clear. Our office will use all legal, moral, and ethical tools at our disposal to ensure justice for Graham, his family, and our entire community.
Bazel is due back in court here in Clay County 1 week from today. That's for a bond review hearing, and a preliminary hearing has also been set in this case for June 6th.
Zachary Thompson, and I'm the Clay County Prosecutor. I am joined by Deputy Chief Assistant Prosecutor Robert Sanders and Assistant Prosecutor Jacob Abernathy. Our hearts go out to Graham's family, his firefighter family, and our entire community. Graham was a good man who made the decision to become a firefighter and serve his community. He made the well-being and safety of his community his personal responsibility. Our community grieves his loss at such a young age with his entire life ahead of him. Tonight, I am announcing our office has filed the following felony charges against the defendant, Shanetta Bazel. Murder in the first degree, an A felony that comes with a sentence of life imprisonment without the eligibility of parole or the death sentence. Armed criminal action, an unclassified felony with a range of punishment between 3 and 15 years imprisonment. Assault in the second degree, a D felony with a range of punishment of up to 7 years incarceration or a fine of up to $10,000 or a combination of fine and imprisonment. Resisting an arrest, an E felony with a range of punishment of up to 4 years imprisonment or a fine of up to $10,000, or a combination of fine and imprisonment. The court accepted our felony complaint, reviewed the circumstances of the case, and set bond at $1 million. I commend the work of the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department in conducting a rapid and professional investigation to get us to this stage. The work to uncover more information about the facts and circumstances of this horrific crime continues. Let me be perfectly clear. Our office will use all legal, moral, and ethical tools at our disposal to ensure justice for Graham, his family, and our entire community. I'll now answer a few questions.
Can you tell us a little bit about her mental health? Did she suffer from mental health issues? Can you talk a little bit about that?
In the state of Missouri, all defendants are presumed to be competent. Any issues with mental health can be addressed during court proceedings.
Can you summarize what happened in the back of the circumstances that led to this guy?
So officers responded to 152 North Oak on a report of a party walking along the side of the road. They contacted that person, the defendant, saw that she had an injury on her finger, and then contacted emergency medical staff. When the defendant was in the back of the ambulance and being driven to a hospital, the driver of the ambulance heard Graham call out that he needed help. He pulled over, got out. When they opened the back of the ambulance, they could see that a struggle was ensuing. At that point, Graham indicated that the defendant had a knife and that she had used it.
You know, she had the knife on her when she was put in the back of the ambulance. It wasn't equipment from the ambulance, what I'm asking.
I don't have any information in that regard. I do know that it was a blade, a folding knife, approximately 4 inches in length when folded.
Today we were driving from North Oak Traffic Way on 152 to Platt. Drawing a blank on that name, but between there's a police presence with dogs. Is that connected to the incident today, and maybe what were they looking for?
I can't comment on an ongoing investigation. I do know, because we've maintained regular contact and working closely with the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, that they are working very, very hard to uncover all the relevant facts in the case.
So it was connected?
Like I said, I don't want to comment too much on the specifics of the investigation beyond saying that we're working closely with the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, and they are using every tool at their disposal and our disposal to make sure a thorough investigation is conducted.
Thank you. One follow-up to that. You said that they had pulled over. There was an altercation. It was a knife. Did you recover that weapon?
The knife's been recovered, yes.
And was it within that period, that stretch of way there on the highway?
The knife was recovered inside the ambulance.
Basel is in the Clay County Jail or another facility?
I know the defendant remains in custody. I'm not sure where her present location is exactly, beyond the fact that she is in law enforcement custody.
And was she the one that called for help? How did that happen?
Well, so this investigation is still ongoing, and some of the details will become clear later. But we do know that Kansas City, Missouri Police Department received a call about someone on the side of the road, and they responded to the scene. It's unclear at this point who made that phone call.
Had the suspect had any prior history, criminal history, or run-ins with the law?
Sure. Last week, on Wednesday, our office was contacted about a defendant in custody in regard to potential criminal charges. So we received that phone call on Wednesday of last week, and the defendant was on what's called a 24-hour hold, which means the defendant was in custody, and we had 24 hours to make a filing decision, or she would be released from custody. Within that 24-hour period, our office filed felony charges against the defendant for D-felony assault and E-felony resisting while she remained in custody, filed the felony charges, and requested a warrant so she would remain in custody.
And this was last week?
This was last week.
Can you tell us that incident a little more?
So we did distribute probable cause statements for that case from last week. That involved an assault on a law enforcement officer and a resisting arrest.
Anything prior to last week's incident that you come across in the short amount of time you've been looking at this?
So as far as convictions go, a quick review didn't show any convictions for these types of offenses, but she did have that pending case.
So, one clear, so the case you just described, that was last week? Not the officer who got bitten 2 days ago?
Correct. We filed charges against the defendant last week, requested a warrant on 2 felony charges, the D felony of assaulting a law enforcement officer and the E felony of resisting arrest, requested a warrant, and the judge honored our request for warrant, issued a warrant, and set bond at $10,000 on that previous case.
So the biting in relation to this, you have a charge?
We have.
Oh, yeah.
And,
so
so that's the D felony assault I mentioned when we listed the charges that the defendant is currently facing.
So 2 assaults on LEOs in the last week allegedly by this point?
Right. The defendant is currently charged with 2 different counts of assault of a police officer in 2 separate cases, and I think it's important to note that the charge of an offense is not evidence of guilt, and the defendant enjoys the presumption of being not guilty.
And so she was out. Was she ever arrested and jailed, or did she bond out? Why was she out after the initial charge?
So when we filed the initial charge and requested a warrant, and it was granted, the judge in that case, as in all criminal cases, reviewed the circumstances, determined the appropriate bond. In that case, bond was set at $10,000, and the defendant posted that bond.
Can you elaborate on what station Mr. Hoffman was at, like in Kansas City Fire? Do you know what station, where he was stationed?
I think that information would be better requested from the fire department.
How closely are you working with Mayor Clinton with this and his staff as well?
We had communications with members of the mayor's staff in regard to this case. Our focus on this case, as is in all cases, is to pursue justice inside the courtroom, and part of that process demands that we maintain close working relationships with the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, and that is happening and going very well.
Can you talk a little bit about after the stabbing occurred? Was it his partner that called for help? What happened after?
So after the defendant was put in the ambulance initially, was being driven to the hospital, the police car was following the ambulance. And while the car was driving, it's alleged that that's when the defendant began her attack. And when the driver of that ambulance pulled over to the side of the road, and that's when the police officers became involved.
So they were already following?
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of Inside the Dark. Take care, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel, where I'll be waiting to take you back inside the dark.